Self-Publishing Podcast, episode number 168.
This episode of the Self-Publishing Podcast is brought to you by 99 Designs, the online marketplace that helps you get outstanding book cover designs at an affordable price. Start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP and enjoy a free power pack upgrade valued at $99.
Welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, where if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. And now, here are your hosts, three goths who spend most of their time up in the trees, Johnny, Sean, and Dave.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, the podcast that follows three full-time authors as we attempt to change the face of indie publishing. Join us as we freely experiment, occasionally screw up, and something else. I'm Johnny V. Truant. My co-hosts are Sean Platt and David Wright. Really phoning it in on the intro today. This is the last episode that will be what we're calling SPP 1.0, which means that that's the last time you've heard that intro, I think. As we've said a few times. Yeah, well, I don't want anyone to think, because we've had some people who are like, well, don't change this and don't.
It's just changing the stuff that sucks. Well, actually,
do you want to really open that door?
No, I don't. I take it back.
But that said, it won't have the intro, and I won't have to remember that and stumble over it every time.
And in case anybody thinks that meant we were not going to do Better Off Than Dead anymore, we'll still be doing that travesty. Although we will change the name.
Much to Dave's delight, I'm sure.
It's appropriate that we did the Goss Tree intro one last time, though.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's the reason I did that one, is I wanted to get in the Goths and Trees one last time. Shit, pour out a little bit of your drink on the curb for that one. Today's episode is going
a precious drop of my diet soda.
I'm drinking
the homies can find some in hell.
Drinking a Coke Zero today.
That's a teaching for Dave. The homies can find some in hell.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk, just to let you guys know, like right off the bat, the title is a lie. It will not be 10 lessons, because that
you
would
don't even call it a tease. You call it a lie.
No, it's a lie. Like, because there's not going to be 10, because
there
10
might be
implies
more than 10, though.
Well, that's what I'm going to
Just
say. Like, it's only going to be 10 by coincidence. Like it may be 9, it may be 11.
Wait, I'd like to defend myself here. I don't have numerous. I'm not going to have 8 of them myself. I'm going to have 2.
He's just going to have
I
one.
hope you have 8 of them, because
Right.
I don't even have one thing I've learned.
Then I'm going to talk, like, I'll talk the length of having 15, but I'll only have 3 max.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a pretty elementary mistake there, Dave, thinking that he would get more accomplished because
Did
he
we
talks
say
so
what the
much.
topic title is for those who are just listening and didn't even see the title?
Well, this is
wasn't that the topic that I think that's, maybe I just said 10 and I didn't actually even give you the the actual full thing. All right, so so off to a great start. So 10 big self-publishing lessons from SPP 1.0. Yeah, I definitely didn't say that. So, but like I said, it won't be 10. It will just be our biggest lessons from 1.0. So this is episode 168. So there have been 168 times. Oh God. That we've sat down here and we've discussed self-publishing, and every once in a while I'll hear people say, well, I'm on episode 6 because I'm starting from the beginning, and I'm kind of like, well, you're going to learn some lessons that we may no longer really agree with, so I don't know if that's the wisest way to do it. And so I think we're going to pull out the Cliff's Notes. Like, you don't have time to listen to all 167. Here's the high points.
So we can just delete all 167 episodes, you're saying?
We are going to move them to an old feed, though. There will be an archive feed. I don't know how to do that, so hopefully somebody else does. Hopefully Maya knows how to do it.
Thank you, Maya.
So before we do that, though, anything cool happened between yesterday and today?
I have something cool.
We haven't had adequate time this week. There just haven't been enough opportunities with the 5 fucking times we've sat down and talked about self-publishing this week.
I have something cool.
You think we'd run out of things to say by now?
One of us is Sean.
I got an email yesterday.
Woo! Yeah!
I got a lot of
that
emails
is cool.
You lucky man.
This was an email. I think actually it may have just gone to Johnny or maybe Amy and she forwarded it. I'm not sure. but it was somebody who read. Johnny's gonna know immediately what I'm talking about here. Somebody had read Invasion, and they asked us out of the blue, and I just love this. I wanted to hug this reader.
Oh yeah.
If we had cast Zoe Deschanel as Piper. And that was just really awesome because Zoe Deschanel was who we cast as Piper. And so I just thought that just tickled me so much. And Johnny had responded to her. So he must have forwarded me the email. He responded to her, "How did you know that?" Like that's
It was in Twitter.
Because I'm in your window.
Oh, okay. It was in Twitter. Oh my God, I'm so dumb. So
Wow.
yeah, but
I don't think I could trust anything you say anymore.
she explained exactly why she thought so, and it made me really happy because it's just a small thing, but
The big eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm listening to the
perkiness.
Invasion audiobook right now, and so that's in my head. Like when I was listening to the initial chapters with Piper or somebody with Piper, just trying to listen for what it was that she heard, and the descriptions are vague. So it's like, I mean, well, they aren't that vague, but they aren't super specific.
Stuff, maybe.
It was, well, there was that. So she said it was so basically she has large blue eyes. She has retro cut bangs and dark hair.
Well,
and
there's only one person in Hollywood that has that.
Right, exactly. And she did mention the clothing line. So Piper has a quirky clothing line. It was called Quirky Q, and I guess now, as far as I know, Zoe does.
Is it? That's her.
Well, she's quirky.
Line, yeah.
She is. Wait, hold on. Is that? What do you mean? That's her tagline?
Everybody calls her quirky or adorkable, which I fucking hate as a word.
Adorkable.
But it wasn't called adorkable.
Yeah, you've never heard that word?
I've never heard that.
They've used that word for her, like to basically sell the show on her quote adorkableness, and that made me hate the show.
I think it's appropriate. Like I think that's a very appropriate adjective for her.
I like Zoe. Dave and I have talked about Zoe a few times. For some reason, he doesn't like her.
Well, I did like her up until that show came out and all the hype and all the articles about adorkable and the hype train threw me off. New Girl.
Somebody who is so independent-minded as you, Dave, you let other people's affection for shit ruin your own. Why?
Well, yeah. Well, because I don't like all the forced hype, man. I'm a contrarian bastard.
Dave's like the guy who stops liking big label bands or indie bands when they become
I knew
popular.
Radiohead before they were cool, man.
I was so that guy. Signed
with
Atlantic Records. That was terrible.
I was so that guy. I try not to be anymore, but every now and then it creeps in.
Well, anyway, I just thought that was really cool because
But I refuse to watch anything labeled as adorkable.
Well, I
think
can
it's really
see
appropriate.
that, but it is appropriate, and I like Zoe a lot. I liked her. The first time I remember noticing her was in Almost Famous. She plays the older sister to Patrick Fugit before he she gives him all her records and changes his life, and I don't know, I thought she was adorable and
adorkable.
Does
And she's
she remind you of your sister at all?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
None of the times you asked me. None.
So
I get that same sort of like artsy hipster girl sort of vibe from your sister as I do from Zoe. But I don't. But nobody called your sister adorkable, so I don't have a strong reaction against her.
Zoe looks very approachable, though. Megan has a
gun.
Yeah, kind of.
So I'll cheat on my something cool because I know. Let's face it, Dave's not going to have one.
I do actually, but go ahead.
Oh, awesome!
God. Okay, that's great. So it's just going out on a high note. So I'm going to cheat, and mine is the reason that we're even doing any of this. So if you, like I said, we've done 167. This is what we're calling SPP 1.0, this body of work, and then we're moving into 2.0, and that's actually really cool. But what we've been doing recently is we've, in true Sterling and Stone fashion, they're the confluence of two things that make each other more difficult. Like they compound to make life more difficult, and they of course came at the same time. So trying to bank content ahead for what we're calling the 2.0 version of this show, which is just going to be a little more trim, slightly more on focus, on topic, and with some pro intro and outro and audio work. And in prep for that, we wanted to have a few episodes sort of in the can before we relaunch, and then Sean's going on vacation and Cindy had like 2 weeks where Sean had to have the kids, and so there were like 5 shows we had to record ahead. So we've been working really hard on this, and it's kind of cool to see like we're getting some initial audio work on what the 2.0 will sound like. And we've gotten, I don't think we have 2.0 podcast artwork yet for this show, but we have it for some of the other shows that we're working on for our upcoming network, which is...
We actually have 3 versions of podcast art for this show, but none of them they've all been vetoed. So
well, that's what
I like one of them.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, maybe we could talk this out live because I liked the one Dave liked. I liked the colors and the type. The fonts all look great.
Can I weigh in on maybe we can talk this out live before you start doing it? Because the answer is no. Like, of course we can't. You don't have the visual.
We want to make our last.
Give a shit.
We want to make our last 1.0 show completely off topic. We don't even want to get to the topic in the last 10 minutes.
No. Because all I'm saying is that like the people listening might be interested in this.
No, they won't.
The image on it is an old fountain ink pen, which I just don't think says 2.0 or digital publishing or Mavericks or anything.
Can I weigh in on whether or not people listening to this will be interested in that?
All right, move on.
All right, Dave, what's your something cool?
A Netflix and BBC co-produced series called The Fall with Gillian, I'm not sure how you say her name, Anderson from X-Files.
It's Gillian.
Okay, it's about a woman who's tracking down a serial killer, and the show is kind of split between her perspective and his perspective, and it's a guy that's in 50 Shades. He's a great actor, by the way. I didn't see 50 Shades, but
he's in Sons of Anarchy too, right?
I didn't see that series. That's something that I'm waiting to get into. So yeah, but it's a great series. Just awesome all the way around. So that's my cool thing. They've got 2 seasons, but of course in the UK a season is 6 episodes.
1 episode.
Yeah.
It was at the Austin Television Festival where they were talking about I forget what the topic was, but they were talking about like maybe closing out seasons or something like that, and there were a bunch of showrunners up on stage and they were answering questions, and someone said something about the UK shows, and they're like, the UK shows, they got 3 episodes a season. And then one of the showrunners says, pussy. And another showrunner said that's not showrunning, that's a hobby.
Yeah, but I think most people would argue that the UK shows are more tightly constructed and better for being shorter seasons.
I think that the UK's are too short and networks are too long. I think American cable, 10, 12 episodes, I think that's about perfect. I like that a lot.
So does anyone have any lessons that Sean, you have many ideas. What was your biggest takeaway from 1.0?
My biggest takeaway, I'd like to kind of approach this from the perspective of like us personally, right? Because I think there's been a lot of takeaways that somebody listening to the show for a few years can really walk away with. But for me personally, I just saw the value of having a community, the 3 of us sitting here and talking each week and talking things out in a way where we understand it better ourselves. And, that's an old adage that, if you really want to learn something, teach it. And, not that I even necessarily think of us as teachers, because I like to not think that we're giving advice so much, because so much of what we do, isn't applicable to everybody. But just the fact that we're teaching by example and we're kind of talking about it out loud, I think it really helps us to crystallize our ideas and to understand things more. And I think that that's given us a lot of velocity that we wouldn't have otherwise. So I'm just really grateful to the show, because it teaches me the value of talking all of this stuff out. And I think that, whether you're a solo author or you're, a collaborator, you really need that community element You need people that you talk to regularly about your ideas so that you can refine them and hear yourself out loud and just kind of get better faster.
I have one. So, because I'm trying to look at this as what are the it's a Cliff Notes thing, right? Or it's the autoresponder, right? We say that the purpose of an autoresponder is to catch people up on what happened and what's most important. So if you didn't have time to listen to 167 episodes, I'm trying to say, like, what are the things that you need to know about what we think, and some of it will be out and out advice, and some of it will be our personal experience. Actually, I would say that all of it is, this is our opinion, and your results may vary depending on you. But one of the big ones is, I think we're done with exclusivity. Like, unless something really amazing happened, I think we're just done with that. So we've made the probably inappropriate comparison of KDP Select to the abusive boyfriend. You know, like, you just can't help it. Oh, he'll be good this time. And so we keep going back.
If I didn't love you so much.
Right, we keep going back and we keep regretting it. Like, we've been lured back, I think maybe 3 times total. Like, okay, it'll be different this time. It'll be different. And actually, a great example of this that we haven't talked about. Now, we didn't get caught by this, but there were a lot of people who were probably thinking pretty tactically, and maybe not as strategically, who did just get a big spanking from Amazon. And that's the change of from borrows. It's no longer borrows. Now it's normalized pages read, which is like, it's basically like you can't just put out a 10-page book and get a full borrow fee.
That's got to be hitting the erotica market hard
with those little shorts, right?
Yeah,
or anybody who tried to artificially serialize a book, like, oh, okay, well, I can't get money anymore for my 500-page book, so I'm going to break it into 5 100-page installments artificially. That bullshit.
Yeah, that is bullshit.
So those people are now.
I'm glad that that's no longer rewarded.
Yeah, I think it's a good change, actually. I think it speaks to quality, and I think that, you know, people who weren't putting the reader first, you know, I think it's a good change. I like it.
Now I've had this discussion on Facebook, that place that you guys never heard of.
We've heard of it, we just don't like it.
That your mothers are very active on, probably.
My mother is very active on.
Yeah, I know. I see your mom all the time.
I'm sorry for you.
I like talking to your mom. She's hot.
Oh, wow.
Anyway.
Wow.
Now, welcome to new listeners.
No,
the drawing that proves it.
I think there are a few areas where I think this could be harmful, depending on how it's going to happen. Because I think illustrated books, I'm curious to see how Amazon's going to count those, count the page, because there is something there is something in their terms about how, you know, books with pictures and stuff will be counted as. I couldn't tell exactly what they're saying by how they're going to count it, so I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But if it is, I mean, it's got to be something that's, you know, one illustrated page is. I mean, typically a kid's illustrated book is like, I don't know, 26 to maybe 40 pages.
If there's a conversion that they use where they say that one picture is worth 1,000 words.
well, I'm hoping that there is some sort of, you know, some sort of allowance to make it profitable, because writing a kid's book already is like just difficult as it is. It's a hard.
Yeah, that's a really
genre.
good point, Dave. That's a really
and you know, as somebody that is making a few of these books, and it takes a long time to draw them, and I mean, it's kind of scary to think that if I were to put my kids' book in KDP Select, because they have this, you know, they had this huge push for it, you know, the kids' Kindles and stuff like that. If I were to put a kid's book in there and it like made a few cents, I would be pretty damn pissed.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. And I wonder how it affects the short story market too, because short stories are something I'd love to see grow. But
Hugh Howey wrote about it recently, saying that, you know, his short stories are doing very well. He's selling them for 99 cents, and they're, I don't know how many pages there are. They're not that big though, and he says he's doing well with it. But I mean, these changes haven't taken effect yet. But he doesn't. From the article I read, he didn't seem to have any issue with it at all. So.
Well, he's done a really good job with his shorts. He brands them. He's pretty consistent with them. They're high quality. They have high quality covers. You know, they look like actual releases instead of this isn't a real release, so I'm gonna give them a cheap cover, right? Like they did good job. I mean, I've read a couple and they're great. Good job.
So for the observant among you, you'll notice that I never actually finished that point. I started talking about select but my point was that that's another way where like some people said, well, this is the benefit of select, and then it bites you. But for us, it's been like, okay, well, exclusivity and a ratings boost, and then things just don't work out. So my actual point is, and this is again for us, but definitely wide. Like we go wide. We're not trying to sell specifically on Amazon. We're trying to sell. And by the way, selling on Amazon in a lot of quarters is equivalent to self-publishing. And if people say Kindle publishing too, like you publish on Kindle, no, you publish ebooks. And I try not to think that way, and I kind of don't think we should long term. You want to build a business, you want to be available multiple places, and in particular, Apple has been a very, very nice thing for us this year, exploding that. But Nook has really taken off for us too, and Kobo. If we didn't have those three marketplaces, I think that Amazon is definitely still our biggest seller, but not by that far, really. So that's one of my biggest things.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. I was going to kick it to Dave, since we both had one, but he has disappeared.
I'm back.
Oh, there he is. Dave, do you have one?
One of the things that I've gotten out of, our first however many years this has been, good Lord.
Ask Cindy.
She has it marked like prison marks in a wall. Your whole wall is just filled with lines, etched with a knife blade.
It's true.
I'm gonna piggyback on your thing about community. Just it's really, when you and I were doing this, it was great. But seeing you and Johnny do it as well, by doing it, I mean writing.
Does that turn you on, baby?
Yeah.
You like to watch us do it?
No, it's a new energy. It's yes, I do like to watch. It's a new energy that is. It brings it up to another level, and then we have all the people around us that are involved with us. The commenters, the watchers, the people that are in our forums and stuff, and everybody has their own things going on, but at the same time, people are also helping one another, and I think that's a very cool thing because when I was growing up, I spent years writing solo. It was a solo thing, and it was a painfully solo thing. Like, I didn't have anybody that gave a crap about, what I was writing. I was just writing for myself, basically. And to know that there's all these people that are now involved, and they're all, like, kind of supporting each other in different ways, in different levels and stuff, that's... it says a lot about the self-publishing community, that it's not this dog-eat-dog sort of world, that not everybody's out to like screw everyone else over and stuff, that there's a lot of people that really want for other people's success. And to me, I don't know that this is a lesson learned, but it's just something I've gotten from the first couple of years of this show, that
I think
it's a very positive experience, and in a world full of non-positive experiences, it's
Dave
like
has
a nice
very few
place.
positive experiences.
Yeah, I do. So, but it's nice that this is here, and that all these people are like together in a way. And I think we've gotten a lot of email from people that say it feels like friends that are doing this with me, or on the same journey, sort of.
They like to watch too.
Yeah, I think if this had been around, if a show like this had been around, back in the day, maybe on the radio or something, it would have been. I think it would have been a lot more inspiring just to know that other people are out there doing it and seeing examples of success, like guests we have on and stuff. People that are just finding different ways to break into the field. I mean, that to me is momentum. It helps me do what I do and believe in it more than I would otherwise. Otherwise, I'd probably just fall apart.
Yeah, I would piggyback off of that. I actually, um, that's really close to what I wanted to say. I think that the value of community is pretty extraordinary, and I don't think going into that, that's really not what I was looking for, and it's been one of the biggest surprises, not just of self-publishing, but of my whole professional life. I was really burned out on community building and that kind of thing. I had come from blogging, and I was just exhausted by it all. And
yeah, they were also temporary. It felt like blogging was like always on to the next new thing and the next fad, the next way to make money, and just start a community and burn it. Just
the next headline,
Yeah.
And I was just really tired of that, and that so wasn't a part of this plan. And it's a beautiful thing that it became the core of what it is, But when Johnny pitched the podcast, it was kind of the mastermind thing, let's the three of us talk stuff out, and that really appealed to me. But the other stuff was just accidental and by the way, and before we knew it, we had this really cool thing, and you guys are amazing. We never could have. We couldn't do a lot of the things that we have done. I mean, the biggest example is Fiction Unboxed, sure, but there's been so many other things. Write, Publish, Repeat never would have been written without you guys, because whatever, it's nonfiction. We want to tell stories, right? But Johnny and I, stopped what we were doing to write that because we knew that there was an audience waiting for it, and they wanted a neater version of all the disorganized way that we talk about it on the show. And that book has helped a lot of people, and that's a really cool thing. But it's just we know that there are people cheering us on in the background, and that's a really nice that's just a really nice feeling, and it gives us fuel when sometimes we feel empty. And it's kind of been a constant, and it's a really wonderful constant, and it makes us want to do more of that kind of thing. So when we're thinking, well, let's launch a podcast network, we've gone a long way in the last few months to really talk about what kind of content we can create for our loyal listeners. What do they want more of? When we redesign the site, how do we make it friendly to our listeners? That kind of thing.
I keep waiting for you to finish. You guys have been talking about community. I'm not counting Sean's because he restating community doesn't count as a fourth, so that's only three. Another one is book covers, except that remains an unfinished one because there's no way to get a good book cover. Does anybody else have any?
You haven't learned after 100,080 million. I'm not sure. I like saying numbers opposite.
Are you proposing a fourth one here? By any chance?
Well, yeah, I think one thing we've learned is that our friends at 99design.com/SPP is the place to go for book covers. Why make a cover yourself? Early on, we made all our covers ourselves, and some of them were good, and some of them not so good. But if you want to get to the next level, you need professional design. And we all know how difficult it is to compete in the marketplaces, especially if you have a cover you made yourself. I see so many people. One of the things about community is that we hear about a lot of books coming out from people that we know. But then, sometimes they'll send me a link and they'll say, well, yeah, I did the book cover myself. And I'll see it and I'll be like, oh, why did you do that? I mean, you don't have to use 99 Designs. I mean, there are other designers out there. If you know somebody, I'm not saying that this is the only place you get designs, but if you don't want to wait and you want a professional design and you want many choices to choose from, 99 Designs is the place to go. I mean, when we've had difficult covers to try to get, we go to 99 Designs and we say, hey, can you all come up with something? And we get so many designs back. It's difficult to choose the best one. And that's the thing I've learned, man. If you want a good book cover, good book cover, go to 99 Designs. If you don't want to sell books, though, I mean, go ahead and do them yourself. Go ahead, open up Microsoft Paint and Comic Sans font and go for it.
Start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP, and you'll get the free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99, but you get you more designer time and attention. So 99designs.com/SPP.
Are the ad reads going to be any better in 2.0?
I was just going to ask that. Are we going to actually write them out ahead of time?
Actually, I would say that the natural evolution is if it's 2.0, they got to get worse.
Oh, great. Amy writes, I haven't seen any of this art. Why don't you care what I think?
We'll ask you after the show, Amy.
She also wrote, the lesson I learned from SPP 1.0 is that not everything I do has to be super professional. Sometimes being blokish and scattered and nonsensical works too. Well, I am not sure what to say about that, Sean.
I feel like we should make one where we've learned that we should include Amy in company plans she's expected to execute, but we actually haven't learned that. So there is that.
Why would Sean ever do that?
Well, it's not just Sean. Like
I blame Sean for everything.
Yeah.
What the hell? Okay, but including Dave often means getting ignored. So like I've just learned, like, you know what the problem is? We just have so many scattered channels. You know, like, okay, this conversation is with me and Johnny. This one's with me and Dave. This one's with the three of us. This one's with Garrett. You know, they're just all. It's hard. We have a lot of different things going on with a lot of intersections. And
one of my 2016 goals is to have a direct conversation just with Dave.
Good luck.
Maybe in Austin we'll have a private meeting.
Dave and I are going to get together to have Better Off Undeads while Sean's gone, maybe. All right.
God, I would stop vacation to listen to that too.
The awkward silence hour is what we're going to call it. So another big takeaway I would say, and this is kind of 101, but it's advice that we ignored a lot ourselves, despite knowing better, and that is the importance of a list. So if you absolutely need a list, and that is where the money is. So just this morning, Sean and I submitted the Dream Engine to BookBub. Actually, it was submitted yesterday, and
We call it Rejection Friday.
We call it Rejection Friday, and we got rejected. And it's like we've had some really nice BookBub hits. Invasion did very well. The Fat Vampire one, box set did very well. Yesterday's Gone did very well. It made it #2 free in the store, and all these. But there's only select titles that we can get them to bite on. And you know, Dream Engine has it's either 99 or 100 reviews, but it's right at that 100 threshold. It's well reviewed. It has a very nice new cover. It's young adult. It's kind of fantasy. Like it should. You would think eventually that would go. And there's a bunch like that. There's a bunch of things that we think should fit, and they just don't. And BookBub just won't talk to us because, quite frankly, they don't have to. Like, yeah, we're not going to feature you. That's all you need to know. So, but if you have a list, then you don't need them. Now, I'm not saying like don't use them, but you don't need them. You know, you don't have to go begging. You don't have to go hand in hand. And so that's been a huge focus of ours, is building a list so that we don't have to ask anybody's permission. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say I'm going to take the other side of community and say haters. Like I really understand the value of haters in, you know,
what?
And what their correct place is, I think. Too.
Right. So I don't know if we can get this in the show notes, but the that Cat Williams that Cat Williams little, I don't know, it's like a
haters gonna hate.
Haters.
I thought you were gonna talk about how to draw a cat, that you had given me a sketch and some beats recently.
No.
Okay.
I just remembered what that is. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, you draw like a penis, and then there's just a few more accents. Like that was how you do it. How to draw a cat, everybody.
Oh, that's great. You know, haters, because certainly we have our share, and
no.
Yeah, and there's that little Cat Williams sketch, which is just really funny. He's like, you don't know you're not relevant until you got a hater, you know. And if I got 10 haters, then I'm trying to figure out how to get 5 more by summertime. And it's a very funny little minute. It's worth googling.
That you just destroyed.
Yeah, I did just destroy it.
Destroyed it like an ad read.
It is awesome, and I think you just have to put it in its place, and I think it's a really good job for us to kind of keep us focused on our goals, and I mean, there's everywhere. I think we really started to see it with the Write, Publish, Repeat launch, for example. Like, how dare they talk about writing, right? And it was just, it's so stupid. The book right now has 12 one-star reviews, and 9 of those reviews came in on launch, like within the first week of the book being out.
Waiting to hate.
Right, and they're not verified purchases. They're just, and like, that tells you so much more about the reviewer than about our work. It's a couple years later, the book still has a 4.7 average, and it's helped a lot of people. We still get a lot of email on that book, but the haters were out in full force, and
they're our biggest fans in a way. They pay attention to every single thing.
They pay attention, but they don't support. It's not like, I mean, that's insult to injury. Not only are they one-star reviews, they're one-star reviews without it being a verified purchase. Like, you couldn't even give us $3 to be a dick, right? So
then they'd have
whatever.
to put their name to it, and they're anonymous. So.
But they really keep us focused on the right things, and I love that. I love that. We've really done a great job, I think, of not ever pressing the easy button and selling high ticket writing courses and doing anything like that. Like, we've put our fiction business first.
Not doing it first, right? Fiction
right.
needs to go first.
Which is that's the hard way to do it. It's much harder to sell fiction than nonfiction, but it's always been important to us. We are a story studio, and I'm really proud of that. And I think that our haters, they I don't know, they kind of motivate us in the right ways.
Well, this isn't even just about. Well, it isn't at all. It isn't about our haters, but anybody who is doing anything where you're public, and haters come with people who love you. Like, that just happens. And haters also come with any degree of momentum or success. So if you want to, and this is a little bit different, but if you want to see haters come out, get featured on Pixel of Ink, get featured by BookBub, anything where you have a large spike of traffic, that's when you tend to get your reviews. Now, part of that is because it's either free or cheap, but just exposure. Like, bigger titles have more hate. That's actually why we were so impressed when Julie Huss was on, that she had so many reviews and still 5 stars shaded. But
right,
that's really rare. Like, it's really rare. Look at the biggest blockbusters, and there's always just this loud minority of haters, and that's just how it is. So
yeah,
and I think success without getting some.
Just being able to stand strong, and I think it makes you a stronger artist. You are not that thing that you do. You are not that art that you create. You are the person to look haters in the eye and laugh and not care. I think that's a learned skill, and I think that this show and 3.5 years of it has really helped to hone it for us.
And if you have a book that you have 5 reviews and one of them is a 1-star, that hurts. Like, I'm not saying for us. I'm saying if you're out there and you're listening to this and you've gotten that, like, it's hard not to take that personally. But just put it in perspective, because haters are loud. So, like, the 1-star reviews for Write, Publish, Repeat, they get buried in. It has like 700 reviews. But if you just have a few, you're gonna be like, that sucks, and it'll ruin your day, and that sucks.
I do realize I just invited some more 1-star reviews.
Of course you did, dumbass.
So, but right, my point is that you need to remember that haters are loud, and the people who love you don't necessarily ever say anything. like there are plenty of people out there who just quietly love your work. So just know that.
Right, and
Alone in a room.
that's another value of the list. And I'd actually add to Johnny's the value of a list, which we're going to keep beating that drum the more we grow it. But it's also communication with your list. It's not enough to have a list. It's nurturing that list and really talking to that crowd and really doing a good job with that back and forth communication. And we get a lot of love from our list. When the Rum and Sans autoresponders go, I think they go out every Thursday, and we always get when Amy's like, "Okay, just so you know, I'm going to be really busy. It's Thursday." When those go out, it's pretty nice. We get a lot of response, and they're really warm, and that really helps, dull that a little bit.
See, I understand a bit of the hate. I talked about this on the Walking Dave. It was the last one I did actually. But I understand a bit of it because, like I said before, I am a bit contrarian, and I tend like if something becomes super popular, I tend to think, oh, all those people are sheep and they're just going along with the flow, and I completely diminish the value of whatever it is. And I've tried not to be like that because I realize a lot of that is just my own unsatisfaction with myself and other people, like because I've never felt really accepted by other people. So like when other people like a lot of shit, like I'm like, well, I don't like that shit. So, but I've never crossed the line to becoming a hater and just shitting all over it and like being the first one to write a movie review that says this movie sucks because it's popular. It's just stupid.
I think Dave makes a really, really great point there. That they're feeling, and it's not about you, and it could be about anything, and I think it's just funny how I think probably the worst for it was that first weekend because, like Johnny said, the haters are loud, right? So the people who hadn't even read the book, because we were getting 1-star reviews on day one for Write, Publish, Repeat, and the book's 120,000 words, right? So these were people who were just waiting, and it was hard that weekend because the good reviews hadn't come in yet. But for 2.5 years,
they hadn't actually read it yet.
right. So for 2.5 years, the good ones have come in, and it's just like it's made us stronger. And now we just kind of laugh it off, and whatever it is what it is. It's part of the cost of being out there and being vulnerable. And I think that what we do, it's pretty brave. We go out there and we're very honest about our missteps and our strategies, and we're exposed. And I think that takes courage. And so we're naturally going to invite that, and I think how we handle it is cool. That's all.
Now, a positive thing, something we've learned, I think, audiobooks. We were pretty dismissive of them very early on because, Sean, I think, was the only one that really listened to audiobooks at the time. But it was just time.
I actually didn't listen to them until we started to produce them, but I was always hyped on them. Like I always knew that was a market we weren't tapping.
We were turned around when people started informing us how pleased we should be by some of the casting in our audiobooks. Like, do you know how awesome this is? And yeah, it took us a while to get
I think a big change too is when I first started. When I really wanted to do audiobooks, I always thought it was going to be this big expense and that we couldn't do it until we paid for it. And then Joanna started talking a lot about ACX, and I thought, okay, well, that's a cool way to kind of just do it ourselves. And now I'm back the other way. Like I love what Podium does so much. That's always going to be my first pick. Quality over ease. And I think ACX is still better than nothing, certainly, but I don't know. You're tapping into that other market. I think it's a good example of do what you do well, and we're good at writing books. Like that's what we do. We're not good at getting audiobooks to market. So that's not really where we should focus our attention. We should partner when possible with a great outfit like Podium.
Sean, pausing for you.
Yeah, he's pausing. We're here's a bit of optimization for us. Just behind the scenes at the SPP, we're trying to work out. Audra she's our producer. She's trying to convince us to record separate audio on each of our machines, and then she'll combine it. And the only hitch is that guests, I don't know how to separate those out. But that would solve this. That would solve the bullshit because, Sean would have his audio. It wouldn't be through the internet. I have a half one. I'm going to count this because I actually am counting these. I want to see how close we get to 10. So this one is kind of halfway. It's kind of like in progress. We aren't totally embracing it, but it's aware. We're aware it's on our radar. And I thought of it when you said Joanna. Is international. So, like I said, we haven't done a lot of this, but just being aware that the U.S. and the U.K. are not the world, right? Like there's more countries out there, and other countries like to read books, and sure, a lot of them like to read in their own language. But who was it? Dan Wood who was on, and he said that a lot of Germans just will read in English, like they won't wait for the translation. So there's that, and then of course you can look at translations and just being aware, like. And by the way, speaking of international, Amazon is not big shit everywhere. They're big shit here. They're big shit in the UK. But Kobo is, I think they're bigger in Canada. And there are plenty of countries where it's Apple because everybody has iPhones. And so just keep that in mind that
could be a big future trend too.
Yeah. That could be 5 years, but we need to keep an eye on it. I do have another one if neither you have one, but I don't want to hog the mic.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this one's more unique to us, I think, but maybe pull out and apply any lessons that may apply to you, and that's diversification, which is actually kind of the opposite of the advice of what's probably advice. Like I think if we were to say if somebody's starting out, like typically for most writers, sticking to one genre, writing one series, and building your wins is probably the best option for a lot of people.
I would say it's almost for sure the best option for most people.
Right. But for us, I'm finding a lot of security and kind of just awesome intellectual stimulation with the idea of diversifying. So hitting multiple genres, yes. Realm and Sands writes in multiple genres. But we also write fiction and nonfiction. We have books and other things, like Fiction Unboxed was not really, it wasn't a course, but it was something else, we had the Platinum Reader thing. We actually just closed that down, which was our monthly recurring thing. Just thinking business outside the box, how can you do different stuff? And that will only continue going forward as you watch us. Sean just finished the very, 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 very rough draft of Sterling and Stone's first screenplay. It's rough because it's about 10 times too long.
Yeah, I'll finish that on Sunday, I think.
Finish it, and it's how many pages again?
Right now it's like 273. It's gonna hit 300. I'm almost
okay,
sure.
So you'll have to cut it down by almost a third, or almost to a third of what it is. And so, but when we start selling screenplays and looking at making movies long term and that sort of thing, I think diversifying into multiple media. We do a podcast and we do ebook publishing, and so I think that if you can look for ways that make sense to you and that don't distract you from what you should be doing to diversify, because that's the other thing too. Like when Amazon does something like change Kindle Lending Library or Kindle Unlimited payments to pages read, then that fucks people who are highly, highly focused in their business, and their business model relies on one and only one thing, specifically KDP Select or a heavy reliance on Amazon. But if Amazon went away, like, yes, that would really hurt us, but not nearly as much as somebody who is all in with Amazon or 99%
we
in
can
with
pivot
Amazon.
pretty fast from that. And I think one of my favorite things in the last month or so, Johnny and I were having lunch with somebody a couple weeks ago, and we were talking all the stuff that Johnny's talking about right now, going horizontal, which I think is really cool. Most indie authors are out there and they're doing a good job of going vertical. They'll get their series finished, they'll work on another series, they'll add to their catalog or maybe start another pen name. But not only are we trying to do that, we're really trying to go horizontal also. We've got the app in development. We are writing screenplays. We want to make movies. These are all cool things. Dave really wants to make a video game someday. Make that happen. Graphic novel. Right? Yep. So these are all things that we want to do. And so we were talking at lunch, and I said, indie publishing isn't who we are; it's where we are. And I think that's really true, because right now that is the phase of our business. But 20 years from now, indie publishing will be a footnote to everything that Sterling and Stone has done and created. And so I think keeping our eye on the larger prize. I'll make that my last thing. The last 3.5 years, the SPP has taught me a lot of patience. A lot of patience, and I love that. When we first started this show, I was just at the very, very end of I had a pretty good paying job, and I just left it because this is what I wanted to do. And I knew then that it was going to take a long time to make this all work, and it has. But I've been really patient, and I have great partners, and even when they're impatient, they're patient. There's a difference, because we're all eager to see this happen.
We're eager. We're not foolishly impatient.
Right, and we do the right things in the right order and the right time. And a lot of people, this is the hater group again, question some of the things that we're doing, like, why are you doing that? That's stupid. Don't you care about making money? And we've never been a revenue-driven company. We've been a story-driven company, and there are certain specific things that we're trying. There's an order to that. We can't skip our steps, and I'm really proud that we don't skip our steps, and that we've had to exhibit a lot of patience. We've had to learn patience, and fortunately, I'm married to a very Zen woman who, makes sure that I am patient. And so anyway, I think that I've learned a lot of patience, and I think that that's a virtue that really any creator can have, because stuff doesn't happen overnight ever.
Actually, I was going to make this point when you were talking about the indie publishing will be a footnote, and it's not who we are; it's where we are. I have a friend. His name's Lee Stranahan, and I don't know if he made this up, but it always seems really profound, and I keep referencing this quote. So he said, my prediction is that in the future people will want to be entertained, and it's just like, yeah, that's how we should be thinking. So if you're thinking I am a digital publishing independent author who publishes on Amazon and Apple and Kobo and Barnes & Noble and wherever else, I would say that that's maybe not the best way to look at it. You are somebody. You are an author, or you are a creator, or you are a creative entrepreneur. And I would say that in our biggest picture, we are people who we want to entertain. And so, will digital self-publishing be around forever? Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe that'll go away. It'll become something else. It'll become app-based. Maybe traditional publishers will ink some big deal and take the world back over, and this will all stop. And if you think of yourself as I am a independent digital self-publisher, then yeah, you're kind of going to be stuck. But if you think that the goal is to create stories or create entertainment, people are never going to want to stop being entertained, is the point of that quote. So I would say always focus on ends, not means. So what is it that you really want? What are you really trying to create? And rather than saying, well, my means right now is digital publishing, that's true, but if you get confused and you say that is what we do, rather than looking at, we want to make a living being creative entrepreneurs, which is the actual end, then you're doing yourself a disservice. And that's related to tactics and strategy too, which we've talked about a lot. So always focus on the big picture, not the way that you're trying to get there. That actually is 10. Go figure. Oh. Do you guys have more? Because we do have time for more, but we did hit 10.
No, but I'll add a note to what you just said. This was one of my favorite stories of the last, I don't know when this happened, maybe 6 months ago. Actually, I think it's been a year. When we were designing our business cards, and we were trying to come up with our titles, and it was so stupid. We were all bouncing back.
Visionary.
Right. Our different ideas about what our title should be, and eventually our cards are all exactly the same. They just have the Sterling and Stone logo, and then
I'm showing it on YouTube. It just says. Did I blow the punchline? I was getting it ready. Just as Storyteller is our title.
Yeah, right. So we all say it just has our name and then Storyteller, and I think that that's such a universal title, right? It doesn't matter, where our stuff is. If we produced a graphic novel, if we made a movie, if we wrote a bestseller, all of those things, we're storytellers. And I think that even when we write nonfiction, Write, Publish, Repeat it's a story-based nonfiction book. There's a lot of stories in there. There's narrative. It's not just a dry how-to, which I think is the people who don't like it, they definitely don't like that. But the people who it really resonates with, that's one of the things they really love about it. And I think that that's a human core thing. We remember stories much more than we remember information. And I think that one of the reasons why Write, Publish, Repeat has resonated with so many people the way it has is because it isn't just dry information, it's stories. And so people, when they need to remember a nugget of information that is imparted in that book, they're not that's a big thing. And I think that I probably already knew that before the podcast, but I think that 3.5 years of the podcast have really helped to cement that in my mind.
All right, so I guess that we'll bring this to a close. There is going to be, if you're listening on the feed, there will be one more episode, but it's going to be a best of, which I'm actually kind of really eager to see. Audra's going to cut up the best of.
I can't wait. That'll be awesome.
Self-publishing podcast, and including a best of ad read, which we may have recorded. So there's that, and but other than that, like, this is the last of what we're calling 1.0. Again, it's not going to change if you're subscribed. I mean, it is going to change, but it's not going to change in a way that you'll care about.
And people that are subbed to the feed right now, they'll get 2.0 in that same feed.
Right. That's actually what I was just going to say. Is if I'm understanding this correctly, then the feed stays the same, but all of the old episodes will move to a different feed. So if you wanted to find the archived episodes, that would be the new feed. So you guys can nothing really changes. The podcast will be recorded live at the same time once Sean gets back into the swing of things with the schedule, and we'll still publish on the same days, and it should be the same feed. So there's that. So I guess just stay tuned, guys, and you'll see what we have in mind. So thanks everybody for listening these past 3.5 years, and we'll see you on the next side.
Peace out.
Bye.